There's a lot of deep ramifications to the Bachittar Natak by Guru Gobind Singh, what it means for the Khalsa, what it means for the Sangha. Jhoty Singh is a massive question. And so I'm going to try to attempt to go to the beginning of it. So Bachittar Natak, first thing, what does Bachittar Natak mean? Bachittar means wondrous, Natak means story, tale, theatre, dance, art, a spectacle. So what Guru Gobind Singh Sache Pasha Maharaj, 10th Master, is saying here is the wondrous spectacle of the world, of the universe. And Guru Gobind Singh explains this physical existence in his own way. If you're connecting this together, like Jhoty has, Guru Gobind Singh says he's Sodhi Rai. Sodhi Rai is a solar lineage of kings and warriors, and he's connecting back to the lineage of the Devte, of Ram, Krishna, and all the way back, all the way back, all the way back. So when Guru Gobind Singh talks about this, it's very interesting at the beginning. Maharaj says the archetypal religion at the beginning of time was the worship of the sun. Why Guru Mantra? It takes you to the same luminosity. It takes you to the same prakash, the same energy. And that's the energy that's being praised here and connected as an actual lineage. And some people have tried to hijack this, for instance, Adolf Hitler with the ideas of Aryans. That's why this solar thing is huge and it's massive. Christianity was the amalgamation of solar tribes into Christianity. So solar pagan tribes that were converted into Christianity. Similarly, Guru Gobind Singh knew that most northern Indian ethnic groups had solar ancestry. So they were all united in this group of the Khalsa. The Bachittar Natak is destroying the notion of Varna because it's bringing all the solar races into one solar warrior Varna. Isn't that also interesting? And so the thing is, that's where this lineage of the Guru, Sodhi Rai, when you take Amrit, you become a Sodhi, you become a Kshatri Khalsa. This is why Guru Gobind Singh narrates this. A lot of the surnames of the different kings at the beginning of Bachittar Natak, you'll find most Punjabi tribes and groups and people are descended from these people. I've even looked at my own genealogy, and I've determined that some of these kings that are mentioned in the Bachittar Natak in the beginning, they are like my most ancient ancestors. And then I've realized by going through this very carefully that most other Punjabis from whatever groups or castes or subcastes or whatever, they're also descended from these different kings. And the Guru knew that, so he wanted to unite all of these people into one fraternity. That's how you got to understand this. This is not only the Guru's genealogy, he's trying to tell you your genealogy, where you come from, your own power, your own genetics, and how inside you is a never-ending kind of like mythological lineage of bhakti, of dharma, of goodness that goes back eons, thousands and thousands and thousands of years. So the Guru's reminding people where they have also come from. He's trying to say to them, you have divine blood. Your blood has come from gods. Your blood has not come from ordinary people. Millions of years ago or whenever, whether people want to believe it, this is the difference between science or not. If you want to believe in science, your ancestor was a monkey. You know, when you tell people you've come from monkeys, look at that, what that is for your consciousness as a brainwashing. My idea of what I believe, my ancestor was Shivji. So the Baradari, the group I belong to, what I know from what Ratan Singh Pangu has written, is that my lineage must come from once upon a time Shiva. Other people's comes from Vishnu. Others people's come from Brahma. But what the Guru's reminding people is, your blood is divine. Try to understand what the Guru's trying to tell you. He's trying to tell you your divine human origin. And I'd go further. I'd say pretty much most people would have divine human origin anywhere in the world. Now, for people nowadays, they say, oh, well, what does that matter now? It doesn't mean anything. You got to look at when the Khalsa was created, they weren't becoming dentists and pharmacists in Coventry or Birmingham or Leeds. They were literally Hindus who'd become Sikhs. This was their worldview. So I don't care how people look at it. These are the facts. Until you don't look at it in that framework, it will always be made to look nonsensical by the detractors of the Dasam Granth. if you separate someone from their mythos, their mythology, their where they come from, you've cut off their roots. It cuts them off from the earth. It cuts them off from the spirituality of the land. In terms of an Indic worldview, from the spirituality of India, that is a grave, grave mistake. That sword is a symbol of that solar power, which the Guru is of that solar lineage, and he's saying the Khalsa is of that solar lineage. The Guru's lineage is of that solar lineage. He explains the Bedi, the Sodhis on that solar lineage of what? People who destroy evil. Science is one modality we can employ to study reality, but it's not the highest way to study reality. A lot of our Gurdwara heads are MI5, MI6 agents. And it's about time people woke up to that and realized, these people with 50, 60 properties, where that money came from. It's why Dasam Granth has been sidelined, why Sadhguru Granth Sahib has been sidelined. You know what we're talking about here, Jhoty? Forgive me, but 99% of the Sangat won't understand our conversation. Because actually, this subject is very deep, it's very difficult, and it requires a lot of nuanced understanding.
Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed today's cinematic. Before we dive into the podcast, I just want to take the time to ask you to please like and subscribe to this channel. This will help us grow the podcast, invite more guests on, and share their wisdom as we grow illuminating dialogues. I also want to share with you that I'm offering one-to-one coaching. This is a space where we navigate together to clarify your vision, align yourself to your values, and achieve transformation. If you feel called for that, you can book a session with me on my website, Jhoty.com. There should be some testimonials as well there. The links are in the description below, and also there's a link for you to join our WhatsApp community as well, where you can discuss these episodes. So I hope you enjoy the rest of the podcast ahead. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki
Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Welcome back to Illuminating Dialogues, everyone. I'm very grateful, like I said before we started recording, for us and have this discussion and share with the Sangat on the topic of the Singh Sabha reforms. I was watching your recent YouTube video and sent you that, and I think it was a YouTube video from a few decades or a decade ago maybe, and also the connection to Bachittar Natak, and how we actually view our dharma. And I was really interested for myself with the Sangat, and hopefully you could help illuminate that for us as well. So maybe we can just start with, how are you?
Jyoti Singh, firstly, thank you for inviting me onto your channel, giving me a space to talk. People find me highly controversial. I am controversial. I'm very proud of being controversial. I'm not going to be some kind of like plastic spoon on a Gurdwara stage saying niceties for people to hear. So people give me money and the committee don't sack me. So I don't want to talk in Gurdwara. For those of you who are watching, you say, "Oh, Kamalroop Singh's banned from Gurdwara, and we've destroyed him." You haven't destroyed me or my reputation. I get called to camps. I get called to Gurdwara. I don't go because I'm not going to do niceties. I'm going to get to the point of what's written in the Maryada. And Instagram, YouTube, and the internet allows me to have free speech. Where I'm censored, I don't want to speak. So it's very important for me, these platforms that people like you make, Ramblings of a Sikh, other people doing this type of seva. So thank you for having me on, and congratulations on reaching 10,000 subscribers to your YouTube channel. I hope many, many other people subscribe to your work. Is really valuable because, again, you're not acting as a censor. What's really important in this time is we do not have censored fascist type agendas out there, and there are just so many of those. So I really value what you're doing. Also, I think the subject that you've asked me about is something that I have pondered and kind of contemplated. And all I can say is there's a lot of deep ramifications to the Bachittar Natak by Guru Gobind Singh, what it means for the Khalsa, what it means for the Sangat, and no one's talking about these scriptures. What people are talking about is like the controversy surrounding scriptures rather than what the scriptures mean. And so
Right.
I'd rather talk about what they mean and what they mean for us and give my best, what I can share as my best understanding with the Sangat. I don't know everything, but this was my subject at PhD level at the University of Birmingham. Dasam Granth Sahib Ji is a big scripture, 1428 printed angs or pages, and I can't talk about all of it. I don't know all of it, but I've tried my best. I spent a decade to research the manuscripts and look at this sacred scripture of Guru Gobind Singh Sache Pasha Maharaj. I feel privileged. I am a nobody. I'm still learning about it. I'm still running lots of stuff through Chat GBT. Sorry, Chat GPT. I always get the name wrong of that bloody thing. To cross reference a lot of things I did. I'm currently looking at some of the Rajnita Granths of the court poets, plus some works on Zafarnama Sahib, Hikaita, running it through that, and some other Sikh history. I'm also working on a project with a Gurmukh in translating Gurbani into 68 languages. So there's a lot
Wow.
that I'm currently doing. I mean, there's so many friends in my chat. It's just crazy, but I really enjoy it. I'm a bit of a geek like that, and just cross-referencing different works. I value what you're doing, and I want to say to people listening to this that for somebody to ask questions on the subject, they have had to have gone and read. And I know you're doing your reading and I know you're doing your homework. And that's why I always enjoy this conversation with yourself, because it's a two-way process. It's not like
Mm.
I'm the person with the knowledge and you haven't got knowledge. You're able to ask these questions because you've put the groundwork in to ask them. And that's what I value. I don't want like people saying to me, Baji, what is Dasam Granth?
Right.
Baji, can we umbrashak? Baji, can we eat meat? It's just like,
Yeah.
is that
Well,
like how far you've gone in this
I'm
subject?
I'm very grateful to for you to share your time and like and journey through this. Hopefully, I don't know much because I'm very new to going through the basically the internet. My Punjabi is not like 100%, so I'm just trying to read through it. But the questions I do have, hopefully, it can benefit the Sangat as well, because maybe as I'm reading through that, people would have similar questions, and also down the line, people might research this. So I'm just very grateful for the time. Maybe 10,000 followers one day, 1,000 followers for now. I don't really care about followers. I just care about people accessing this information as well. So yeah, I think you were saying you're encouraging people. Sorry to cut you off.
No, I
Yeah.
think, it's about, look, this gets complicated and people are not going to like this, but I don't care if it bores people or people turn off from your video. I really don't care, because I don't care if people watch me or listen to me. I don't give a damn. I'm not interested in quality,
Right.
not quantity. So I'm not materialist. I'm not trying to gather. And so likewise, the students that I have who I teach Gurumukhi, Botnia history, I don't teach everybody. I look at the person, and some people I say, hey, I can't teach you anymore. I just turned down somebody who was offering me God knows how much money. Actually, 4 or 5 people from the United States. I said, I can't teach you. Find someone else to teach you, because their aptitude, their attitude is, they're going about it the wrong way, and I don't want to be interested in that. And it doesn't matter how much money people throw at me or glory. This is all irrelevant. Your peace of mind is the most important thing. But the point that I wanted to make is look, you can make dal and you can make roti, and if you haven't got a good method, it's going to come out bland and simple and just subsistence. And so our level of gatha, our level of vichar, our level of kirtan, it's like bland rice without even loon, yeah, let alone jeera or anything else to give it taste. And Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj says something similar about gatha and kirtan in Sosaki. One is like kheer and one is like jol. They're both necessary for your diet. When you need a dessert, you need some flavor, and at the same time, you need to subsistence. You need to exist. You need to be nurtured. And so our method, I want to just go into this quickly. It's not enough to have some bit of history. It's how you look at that history. It's the kind of um, dynamic application of knowledge you put methodologically on that history, on that Garbani, that opens it up. And there are many, many tools academically, spiritually, like in India, the different darshanas, the different schools of thought. Shia Gar, Shia Gur. Guru Nanak Dev Ji talked about that. The six schools of philosophy, yoga, Advait, etc., 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 the different darshanas, yeah. And I don't want to go into all of that, but all of those can be used to interpret Gurbani and spirituality. And the Guru Granth Sahib itself, you can read through Gurmat and use Gurmat to open up more Gurmat, more Gurbani. And so, but also like basic level historical analysis is just like in this day and age, what does it mean? Polemical argumentation, somebody versus someone else, what does it mean? There has to be depth.
Yeah.
This is the point I'm making. And depth actually is more than just historical analysis, it must be symbolic. I'd say schools of Jungian archetypes, which goes towards deities and mysticism and shamanism. These are deeper meditative modalities of looking at this. And now there's robust academic work to be able to frame that. And so, of course, we're going to get some of our brothers and sisters who frame the Guru Granth Sahib in a biblical Abrahamic way, but that's such a meager discussion of Gurbani. It could only be applied to maybe 5-10% of Shabads, not even that. I mean, I'm just throwing that number out there as a guesstimate.
Mm.
And then other Shabads such as Tohi Mohi Mohi Tohi Antar Kaisa Jal Tarang Jaisa. How would you translate that in a monotheistic way? That, according to most monotheism, is already heretical. So we need to like really start being honest, like honesty, like really what Guru Granth Sahib is, instead of like running our own narrative program and just thinking the Sangat are stupid and people haven't read literature. And I love the fact that the internet's out there and all these different tools and we can analyze Gurbani through that. So I needed to say that
Yeah.
before I go into this because I don't want people to think, oh, he's just done a dry, boring PhD and he's just sat there and read, the Pandit Narayan Singh's Tika on, the Bachittar Natak, and he's talking from that. I'm talking from a hell of a lot more research, sitting also with mystics, talking to them and trying to understand this. And this is what I'm trying to put forward to the Sangat to bring light onto these subjects, not because these subjects lack light, they're full of light, they're full of naam, they're full of prakash, they're full of power. But the way they're looked at is through a very feeble, like mucky lens of monotheistic garbage. This is not the way to look at this subject of the Bachittar Natak.
Thank you for setting the scene on how we should approach that, because um, it also takes a bit of courage on our part as students to try to be able to attempt to think in a different way as well. So I thought it would be very good to start the discussion on the Singh Sabha reform by first looking at Bachittar Natak, just to get a genealogy and understanding of our lineage, because I think that helps frame everything. And so one of the questions I had is, in Bachittar Natak, Guru Gobind Singh Ji states that genealogy of the Sikh Gurus coming from Bedi, Sodhi clans from different yuga. And I would like to start with the origins of Surya and Solar Dynasty, because it starts talking about the Manu and Indic thought, which is very different from me and maybe my peers who has grown up in UK or Canada and America, where we don't really have this dynastic understanding or this yogic understanding. So that would help us understand our lineage as children of this spiritual tradition.
Brilliant question, and actually, Jyothi Singh is a massive question, and so I'm going to try to attempt to go to the beginning of it. Okay, to start at the beginning of it. So when we analyze the Bachittar Natak, what's important in any Gurbani is the opening of it, the structure of it, the ending of it. So Bachittar Natak, first thing, what does Bachittar Natak mean? Bachittar means wondrous. Natak means story, tale, theatre, dance, art, a spectacle. So what Guru Gobind Singh Sache Pasha Maharaj, 10th Master, is saying here is the wondrous spectacle of the world, of the universe. And Guru Gobind Singh explains this physical existence in his own way. And I would argue that's symbolic, it's not historical. Now, straight away, I get myself in trouble because Guru Gobind Singh places his own Apani Katha within that, his own story, his own autobiography. So that gets me in trouble because they are historical portions, but actually they're a part of a bigger, what you can say, mythological, what in Gurumukhi they're called mythos. Then people say, well, what's mythology got to do with reality, blah, blah, blah. So let's first start from the beginning. The gurus were not against mythology. This is a modern construction. Let me put this into the brainwashed coconut mindset of the Western people who would be watching this, particularly Sikhs. So we have brown skin, but our mind is Western like a coconut. So we have Abrahamic, biblical, scientific thinking. We don't have mythological thinking. Sadly, that's for us, that wasn't the Guru's thinking. This is a new thinking we have. Because we have that construction, we automatically lambast and attack these mythological notions that they can't be real, that the Guru couldn't exploit them. Who says that and why? I don't even understand why people would say that in the first place. Let's look at reality here. Let's look at the two top universities of the UK, and let's look at the three top universities of the USA. Oxford, Cambridge, Stanford, Yale, and Harvard. All of them, without exception, will take students who study classics. Now, is that not a funny thing? Classics are, my friends out there who don't know, the study of Greek mythology. So to my Murukh Gawar, Punjabi Sikh friends, foolish friends, who say this has just got nothing to do with us, this is Hinduism. Well, why are you sending your kids to Oxford and Cambridge, and why are you getting them to learn Latin and Greek and classics? Oh, because you're a materialistic insect, are you? For the leftovers of colonialism. But your own tradition, you can't give it that same scrutiny. Do you understand what I mean, Jyothi? Are you on the same page as me?
So you
do you understand where I'm coming from, or am I just going off on a tangent?
I think to link it back to a previous dialogue, you talked about one of the demons being a scientific way of thinking as well, you know?
It's a lesser, what we can say, it's a more denser way of thinking. It's more domestic, it's darker.
Right.
It's not a unified way of thinking.
So that would help
And so,
people.
look, So why do the universities accept people who study classics? So Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj, I would argue and frame this from this analysis, has given us classical understanding to keep us on par with the Brahmins and the Imams
Oh,
and the priests and the classicists, because all information comes from classical understanding. And people say, no, no, it doesn't. No. Yes, it does. Even your numbers, alpha, omega, Greek numbers, Greek letters, chemical names, they all come from classics. Please go and do your homework and Latin. So the Guru has given us that framework of ancient India to understand. That's where Bachittar Natak begins in that classical understanding. That does
okay.
not mean it's Brahmanic. It does not mean it's any type of religion. It means this is how the Guru saw reality. And he's explained it in symbolic language, which mythology is a symbolic language. It's not a scientific language. So it can be scrutinized scientifically through its symbolic language. I hope everybody's following me because this is it's boring for me because I'm having to explain it intellectually, and I have no interest in doing this. This is I'm doing this for Jhoty. I wouldn't do it ordinarily. My
Yeah.
mind is too silent to give a toss about these type of conversations. If I'm honest,
No,
I'm
it's
having to come down a million levels of silence to even discuss this. So the thing is, if you look at the Bachittar Natak, let's look at the opening. This famous Shabad Sri Kaljug ki Ustad, the praise of the Lord of time. So, not some spiritual being in some transcendental state that is not even interested in reality, the Lord of time that is immanent, omnipotent, omnipresent here. Kaga Khanda Behandan as the sword, the Shakti, the feminine power. Right? So the thing is, you've already got this idea of solar, of this power, of this Shakti, of this light, this energy. This is the beginning of the Pachita Natak. Then Guru Gobind Singh lays out. Now let's look at the structure. That's the invocation, it's the opening, it's the framework. Let's look at what are the chapters in there. You have the 12 avatars, so you have the avatars of Vishnu, how they come as Mach, Kach, Vahara, Bhavan avatar, and so on. I'm not going to list all of them. Go and do your own homework. How they come to destroy evil, the Buddha, and then how Krishna Bhagwan comes, and then Ram, the whole Ram avatar, the Ramayana, which the famous Shabad Paenge Jate Tumre comes from. Sagal Dwar ko chhad ke gyo twaro dwar are all and in this framework, what does Guruji say? Guruji outlines his purpose. I I've written this for no other purpose than to give the biras for Dharam Yudh to fight against unrighteousness. This is the framework. And then within the Chaubi Avatar, Guru Gobind Singh, within the Bachittar Natak and the Chaubi Avatar, Guru Maharaj places his own katha of his own battles against the Hilraji and the Mughals. So the Guru there is also placing himself amongst the avatars. This is also really important for our worldview. I'm not even going to state the obvious. Go and do your thinking about why that might be. Okay. Furthermore, the Guru then also praises the battles of Chandi, to the mother goddess, in Chandi Charitar Uktabalas, which are parts of the Bachittar Natak. The rubrics tell you they're from the Bachittar Natak. And so in the modern Dasam Granth, they're actually split by Chandi Divar and maybe some other Baniya, but they're all a part of the same composition. Now, the question you asked was about this solar lineage.
yes.
But okay, but what is that solar lineage? If you've been following carefully what I've been saying, we've talked about the solar power of the sword,
Mm.
Khanda Behandan, and then Maharaj says, Prabhanang and Panang, and these are all like about the Lord, and then this super effulgent, like the sun. The sword is effulgent, it glows, it is luminous like the sun. So this the sun, the sword and the sun are equated together. That means the sun, my friends, is a warrior. lineage. The sun is also praised. There's a Surya coverage in Sri Sarblo Granth. The sun is also praised.
प्रथम सूरज नाम विजय कर महातपी बलवंत तनख तार बारंबार नमाम अपारा द्वितीय नाम आदित्य उचारा बेसन पद सारंग.
By Chopar Singh's Ratnam, it tells you in the morning when you see the sun, put your hands together and pay abstinence to the sun. Because we are a solar race. Now people say, oh, that's Sanatanism, that's Hinduism. No, it's just paying your respects. You know it's not God. But you're there, you're just giving your respects to if I do this to you, does that mean I think you're God? Of course not.
Respect. Okay.
It's respect. If I do this to the sun, doesn't mean I become a Brahman. This is the whole thing. The conflation our people have is so stupid. People say to me, "Oh no, Brahman's written this. Oh, this is saying all these things." It's just respect. It doesn't mean anything. So now, if you're connecting this together, like Jhoty has, Guru Gobind Singh says he's Sodhi Rai. Sodhi Rai is a solar lineage of kings and warriors, and he's connecting back to the lineage of the Devte, of Ram, Krishna, and all the way back, all the way back, all the way back. And I'm not going to go through all of them. You can go and do your homework, because I said to Jyoti, I don't want to go into a lot of narrations. I don't want to go into a lot of stories. I want to explain the symbolism so you can get a framework to how to understand this Bani. So when Guru Gobind Singh talks about this, it's very interesting at the beginning. Maharaj says the archetypal religion at the beginning of time was the worship of the sun. Isn't that funny? We've had this whole thing about the sun. And I'd argue again, why Guru Mantra, it takes you to the same luminosity. It takes you to the same prakash, the same energy. And that's the energy that's being praised here and connected as an actual lineage. And some people have tried to hijack this, for instance, Adolf Hitler with the ideas of Aryans. Maharaj has said, if you look at Adolf Hitler, he talks about the Third Reich. Maharaj called the Panth the Tisra Panth. Adolf Hitler wasn't stupid. He's used mythology there about prophecy, about different things. Guru Gobind Singh has also used mythology and prophecy, but there Guruji is given the legitimate solar dynasty, the Khalsa Panth. It's not the Third Reich.
So that connection to solar is very important, because I was noticing this with Egypt as well. So when, just a little touch on the avatars, just to get our Western mindset working a bit. I've looked at much avatar, then all the different avatars kind of evolving. Is that more of a reference to evolution itself, of like the human consciousness, or is that actually pointing to different states in the metaphysical plane that's happened, just so we can get a proper
I'll go back to that, but
okay.
Let's go back to solar, because we're moving away.
Okay.
But I'll go back to that. Let's look at the swastika. The swastika is a solar symbol. This symbol moves. When you actually see it within your third eye and your throat chakra, it's moving around. And this is because the sun is also moving. Everything in nature is moving. So Hitler used the solar symbol and he inverted it. He made the Haken cruise, the opposite. You could say the dark side of the sun, which is actually Saturn. But in its essence, it's taking a solar reference from India. Okay. And so if you look at Grah Prasad, it's cut in a cross. This is also a solar symbol. The swastika is also, it's the same Christian cross. The Christian cross is a cross and it's got a circle around it. But a swastika, it's just, this is curved, this is straight. It's the same symbol. That's why this solar thing is huge and it's massive. Christianity was the amalgamation of solar tribes into Christianity. So solar pagan tribes that were converted into Christianity. That's why the original Bible has SUN, of God rather than the S-O-N of God. I don't want to get into it. Go and do your own research, watch the Zeitgeist movie. But more than that, look at the manuscripts, because I looked at the manuscripts in the British Library 20 odd years ago, before the Zeitgeist movie was out. I think 25 years ago, I looked at this. And so the thing is, S-U-N, not S-O-N, uniting all these groups. Similarly, Guru Gobind Singh knew that most northern Indian ethnic groups had solar ancestry. So they were all united in this group of the Khalsa. Isn't that also interesting? And so the thing is, that's where this lineage of the Guru, Sodhi Rai, when you take Amrit, you become a Sodhi, you become a Kshatri Khalsa. This is why Guru Gobind Singh narrates this. And actually, the surnames that are a lot of the surnames of the different kings at the beginning of Bachittar Natak, you'll find most Punjabi tribes and groups and people are descended from these people. I've even looked at my own genealogy, and I've determined that some of these kings that are mentioned in the Bachittar Natak in the beginning, they are like my most ancient ancestors. And then I've realized by going through this very carefully that most other Punjabis from whatever groups or castes or subcastes or whatever, they're also descended from these different kings. And the Guru knew that. So he wanted to unite all of these people into one fraternity. That's how you got to understand this. This is not only the Guru's genealogy, he's trying to tell you your genealogy, where you come from, your own power, your own genetics, and how inside you is a never-ending kind of like mythological lineage of bhakti, of dharma, of goodness that goes back eons, thousands and thousands and thousands of years. It's not just about Guru Gobind Singh. This is, Guru Gobind Singh, he's placed his own katha there to explain his own genealogy and the lineage of the Gurus. But he's also talking to the Khalsa and where they all come from. And in those days, people would have understood. Nowadays, people can just tell you like some algebra and, their GCSE because their parents want to earn money, but they can't tell you any classical information, particularly when it comes to when it's in when it's connected to India. Some people in India can. Some people in India can tell you this in villages and in Samprada and some Gyanis, but they're few and far between. Most people in India nowadays, they're also just their mindset is science and maths. So they're little computer programs.
So, like, why are the people of this North India solar race? Because it gives that Lav Kush, the mythology, they married Punjabi princesses. So is it the case that mythology basically implanted in that region of Punjab? That's why the Gurus came there?
What can you say? I mean, there's too many ifs and buts in there.
Yeah.
What you can say is what I've said academically. There's too much like guesswork in what you're saying.
Okay.
Yeah. But what you can say is every type of writing has a purpose. The Guru, we know, has put his genealogy, which you stated at the beginning of this Zoom.
Right.
So why he's not, but the thing, what people miss, he's not just talking about his genealogy, he's talking about many genealogies, which are all connected to those people who become Khalsa. All from the north of India, I'd say most of India, actually. Probably 80% of India, maybe if not more. So the fact is, look at where the Panth Pyare come from all over India. They don't just come from Punjab. So the Guru's reminding people where they have also come from, which is the divine. He's trying to say to them, you have divine blood. Your blood has come from gods. Your blood has not come from ordinary people. Millions of years ago or whenever, whether people want to believe it, this is the difference between science or not. If you want to believe in science, your ancestor was a monkey. My idea of what I believe, my ancestor was Shivji. So the Baradari, the group I belong to, what I know from what Ratan Singh Pangu has written, is that my lineage must come from once upon a time Shiva. Other people's comes from Vishnu. Others people's come from Brahma. But what the Guru's reminding people is your blood is divine. Now, for people nowadays, they say, oh, well, what does that matter now? It doesn't mean anything. You got to look at when the Khalsa was created, they weren't becoming dentists and pharmacists in Coventry or Birmingham or Leeds. they were literally Hindus who'd become Sikhs. This was their worldview. So I don't care how people look at it. These are the facts.
So this
And
whole
until you don't look at it in that framework, it will always be made to look nonsensical by the detractors of the Dasam Granth.
because I was looking at the Epic of Gilgamesh and then this, and also biblical understanding, and they had very similar parallels to the Indic mythological understanding, which was like this Manu or idea of progenitors, and that human having a lineage to this, and that was very different from the Western understanding, like you said, of evolution. So, but I didn't see the split between, like you were saying, these different um, beings. But yeah, this idea of progenitors came up in my research, which people nowadays are coming to have a more understanding of in the Western world as a counter to, like you said, the evolutionary understanding.
I talked to Floyd Red Cloud Westerman once. He's passed away now. Back in the day, and I was at a conference with him with shamans and different people. And one of the things he said is like, "Hey, my brothers, my European brothers, your ancestor might be a monkey, but mine isn't."
Time evolves and comes to a place where it renews again. There is first a purification time, then there's renewal time. We are getting very close to this time now. We were told that we would see America come and go. And in a sense, America is dying from within because they forgot the instructions on how to live on earth. Everything is coming to a time where prophecy and man's inability to live on earth in a spiritual way will come to a crossroad of great problems. It's the Hopi belief, it's our belief that if you're not spiritually connected to the earth and understand the spiritual reality of how to live on earth, it's likely you will not make it. When Columbus came, that began what we term as the First World War. We always say, that might be your ancestor, but it's not our ancestor. He is a relative, but not our ancestor.
When you tell people you've come from monkeys, look at that, what that is for your consciousness as a brainwashing. There's no proof. There's absolutely no proof. This is just a idea. And you can say, well, this idea is true because we share this much of the genetics. We share a lot of genetics even with plants. All living things share DNA and RNA. Okay? And so the thing is, our construction, I'm sorry to say it to people, and people are not going to like it, we're not scientific. Science is one modality we can employ to study reality, but it's not the highest way to study reality. And what else to say? So
Yeah.
if you look at it very simplistically, like I've laid out, and I've the thing is, people say, oh, he's doing it simple because he doesn't know anything about it. I could go on and on and on about individual chapters. It doesn't add anything because you've got to know what is the meta narrative, what is the thread of all of it. Dharamyud, solar worship, which is laid out from the Sri Kaljug ki Ustad. which is Mara says, Namaskar, Siri Karagako, I bow down to the sword. That sword is a symbol of that solar power, which the Guru is of that solar lineage. And he's saying the Khalsa is of that solar lineage. The Guru's lineage is of that solar lineage. He explains the Bedi, the Sodhis on that solar lineage of what? People who destroy evil. What is evil? Let's go. Let's look at this. In a bit of depth. When you look at Mahabharata, the biggest thing that the Pandave and others were doing were killing cannibals, people who eat other human beings. This was considered one of the worst forms of sin. But what people don't understand is, let's look at the parallelisms with the story of Malak Pago and Pai Lalo. When the blood came out of the roti, this is a form of cannibalism of human beings economically. This is what would have been understood by people who were educated in classics in the Bind back in the day. Now there's a disconnect between this information. We're being cannibalized by a different method nowadays. Your blood is being drunk by your mortgage, by your lack of freedom, by your lack of union with nature. You've given away all your freedoms to the state and other things which you must fight for. Do you understand what I mean, Jhoty? This is why they don't want you to have classical understanding, because this is for the elite of England.
So this
Your grammar school people, your Oxford, your MI5s, MI5, MI6, the spy groups, they won't even let you in if you haven't got classics, Latin and Greek.
This whole conversation on bloodlines and lineage, it's like breaking the worldview.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
I want to say something. Okay. I've worked for them, so I know.
Okay.
I've worked for them, and so I know that.
Okay. Yeah. So the bloodlines and the lineage kind of like break the whole worldview of how we even do prachar or like even talking katha about like Sikhi. Like just quickly before we go on to the reforms itself, just to cover this kind of worldview. So these avatars, like Mach avatar we mentioned before, and the different avatars, are they more for the Indic thought as like the consciousness evolving, or like I seen there was like a flood in the mythology, and there's also those in the ancient Western mythologies. So are those showing kind of real narratives, or are they more kind of metaphors? How should we approach that with our coconut?
If you're gonna, again, you're looking for a material answer, and for me, sorry, Jyoti, that's not the way to look at this. That's okay. Like, again, it's like getting a Pablo Picasso and then doing a Sigmund Freud interpretation of his psychology.
Right.
Like, why even try to make it like a history? Like, why get a bit of poetry and try to make it into like some kind of like psychoanalysis of the person or something like that? That I've just spent the whole time explaining to you that framework will not work on this. So you're saying, is it a narrative or is it scientific? Well, why even look at that? It's like a dog chasing his tail, never ending. Look at the purpose of that scripture. And in order to get out of that, that's why I framed it very carefully how I did, knowing the pitfalls of somebody listening to this and all the anti-Dasam Granth material out there is particularly connected to Lav Kush, which you would have read already. Is this real? Did it happen? Did it not happen? I don't care. It doesn't change anything for me. What I do care is why Guruji put it there. And Maharaj puts it very clearly. I've written this to make sure you have that spirit as a conqueror over evil. Not conqueror over the world. This is where the Panth's gone wrong. Everybody's trying to conquer the internet, or conquer followers, or conquer the prachar, or conquer the committee, or conquer the land. We are conquerors over evil. That's who we are as Khalsa. We conquer evil. We've got no other conquest over anything else. And in that particular conquest at this time, we're fucking shit. Because evil is happening in every direction and we allow it. See, it brings it, when you say, is it real or not? It brings it back into Maya. Like, oh, it must be materially something.
Right.
Then that material, that gives me a gain, it gives me an edge. That's not what the Guruji is saying. Guruji is saying, you are divine. You come from a divine lineage. Now pick up yourself and start doing some good before bad ends up on your doorstep and ruins your life too.
Yeah, that's very subtle.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's where the anti people, they're always going to keep going saying, oh, look at this is a Hindu, or look at this is, well, we're from India. Everybody was a Hindu in Guru Nanak's time. What do we fucking do? Do we move country? We become African? We become English? What the fuck do we do? Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's what I'm trying to say. So all I can say is 99% of what people say in Qatar, I'll say even more, it's just feeble. It's just weak. And it doesn't go to the point of what Dasam Granth's saying. I hate to say this, even Nahang Singh's, a lot of their interpretation nowadays is just like mainstream because they're looking for numbers. They want to be in photos with thousands of Singhs all looking the part. But you look at their level of knowledge, Rag Vidya, Shastra Vidya, any kind of useful kind of anything, they're useless. Any idiot can make money. It says it's a Gurbani. Any fool can make money, you just have to work like an ox. I know millionaire taxi drivers in Northampton who are bande, but they've worked their ass off. And look, I respect their work, but that's not a culture. To work your ass off like an ox over money for a gold tissue box holder and a Mercedes Benz white or beige or black nowadays. They're going for black ones.
Okay. So so now that we covered, like, I don't know if there's anything you want to say about the Bachittar Natak and how we should approach this, but I thought that would be a really good place to then go into your video about like what is Singh Sabha Jathas for someone that's not familiar with how the Sikh structure is basically developed and they're searching for authenticity. How, because I think that's a good background and how we're viewing now the sociology of.
I have to be like to the point here.
Yeah.
Go and watch the Singh Sabha lecture on my channel
Okay.
because I refuse to go through over that whole talk. Like people need to go and do their own work on it, but I can sum it up for the sake of those who are unable. So the Singh Sabha was a reform movement. It started out reasonably good. It was for the welfare of Sikhs and Sikhi and the whole tradition. At a certain point, it became like this Western hermeneutic and scientific and anti-ritual, anti-Hindu, anti-everything, really. They're anti themselves to a certain extent. They're life haters. And they were very, I'd say, Christian, Abrahamic in their understanding. And that Singh Sabha in the end won over 2 or 3 factions. There might have been even at a certain time 5 factions. And then they started to edit Sikhi, and a lot of that editing that they did 100 odd years ago, probably 104, 105 years ago, are still carried out to this day. Other groups who remained with the tradition and became fringe movements when they were the original tradition, including the Nahangs, the Adasis, the Nirmalis, Seva Panthis, the Gyani movement, have all kept to the original Maryada. So in effect, they created 2 Maryade, the greatest divide and rule by the British. They divided us. And so they divided on liturgy, on other things, on the way we look, on the way we tie our bugs, this kurta pajama thing. Like, which person did seva in a kurta pajama? That's Punjabi clothes. They're not like Sikhi religious clothes. So you'll see people like not in a bana, they wear a kurta pajama who work for the SGPC. So there's so many things there. I don't know where to begin, but if you watch the video, you will understand incrementally. And I give the example of how they were British loyalists. They were against Maharaja Dalip Singh's, our own monarchy. They were against his freedom. They were against the reinstatement of the Punjab as an autonomous region. So they were loyalists to the British and they wrote the Maryada that way. And it's funny how everyone in the West forgets that conveniently. Because I tell you something, Jyoti, I'll say it here today and I don't care. A lot of our Gurdwara heads are MI5, MI6 agents. I don't care if I get killed, I get shot. They're in with these people. And it's about time people woke up to that and realized, these people with 50, 60 properties, where that money came from. And that, bum little boys and consistently get away with doing that. And blackmail Kuriya and taking photos of them naked, and the police let them off because they're put there. And hey, you know who you are, people. You know who you are. And you know where I am. And I couldn't give a shit about you. I'm not afraid. Maharaj, I have full faith in Guru Gobind Singh.
Wow. And
Do you see how deep this goes? It's the same thing, even from them, even here. This whole like Khalistan stuff and everything. I get it. I understand like Raj Gariga Khalsa, Manahang Singh, we believe in Khalsa Raj, but I don't believe in Punjabi nationalism.
there's a
Do you understand?
state.
That's a completely different thing. That's why the Kabit Savaiye of Pai Gurdas are not read and the Punjabi Vara are read. That's why Bhagat Bani and Pattan de Savaiye are not understood. It's why Dasam Granth has been sidelined, why Sarablo Granth Sahib has been sidelined. Punjabi nationalism doesn't help you. Hanuman Natak. List is endless. Unless it ain't Punjabi, it ain't good. That's not Sikhi. That's not Sikhi. Sikhi, like I explained to you, is about the conquering over evil, not conquering a land. And we only conquered land because we conquered evil and corruption. Now we're full of corruption. Let's look at our parties, Badal Party, every single head, the Taxalis head with the Badal, the fake Nahang Singh, he's in head with the Badal. They're all in bed with the Badal. But the thing is, they're all in bed together because they're all the same Freemasonic shit. That's what they all are. I'm not saying all Freemasons is shit, but this particular version in Punjab is a pile of shit.
So does that go with the bloodlines, or is that just like people out of their own free will just choosing corruption?
I don't want to take it that far. You
Okay.
again, it's like let's not make this material. It's like let's
Okay.
not make it binary,
Sure.
one versus the other. Let's look at it as philosophically.
Okay.
It's more subtle. Do you understand? Yeah, it's a subtler beast. You're still looking for this like genetically modified Indian demon reptilian. I don't know. I'm not. Don't give a shit about that. I'm not going to go around testing people's blood. But what I can say is mentally, for sure, they're that type of thing because they're Lachan, because they cut down Garbani, because of what they do about rituals, what they do about how they treat women, how they treat animals, how they treat the Sangat, how they treat people like they're fools, how they hijack religious institutions.
Okay. So yeah, I think we kind of covered that. How does it metaphysically do when these ticks are removed? But yeah, like I think we pretty much covered. That's like Singh Sabha. You've kind of hit the point. But I understand like even Gautama Buddha was from the same dynasty from my research. So why is it important that these people, I think even from the Jain understanding, they're also from that Indic dynasty? Um, so is it important that we understand that? Is there like a greater worldview we should appreciate as people from Sikh lineage, that these great beings are also from that solar dynasty?
Well, it's a good question, and you can compare it in. You can do. You're brought in a cross comparison with other kind of sampradaya or other kind of religious traditions. I don't think it's fair to do that
Okay.
because it's an interesting question you've got, but what does it mean? It doesn't mean anything. Yeah, Jyoti, I'm just being honest. Yeah, it doesn't actually mean anything because for them, they have no interest in what Guruji's written.
Okay.
Does that make sense? They're on their own path. So you're saying, well, okay, what's the ramification for this group and this group and this group? They're on their own marg. We have to be on our own marg from what Guruji set out, Hannah. And then second to that is, okay, if we want to get into that can of worms, because it's just a can of worms, it's just a mental exercise. It has no substance because it doesn't really have a reality to that question. Now, I'm not condemning your question, but this is a kind of a clever question that people ask in the West, but it actually means nothing. You could say this in the Quran, it says God has created a human being from clay, as in God, like a sculptor, has made the man. In the Bible, it says man is made in God's image, mankind, as in woman and man. In Gurbani, Guru Granth Sahib, Man Tujho Sarup hai apara Mool Pashan. In Dasam Granth, Atam Ras Jo Jane So Khalis Dev. The list is endless. What are they all saying? Know your divinity. And what the Guru has done there through Bachittar Natak, remember, it's a theatre, a world theatre. The Guru's explained it through that Indic lens. Have whatever lens you want. I think it's immaterial, but know your divinity. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, when you're talking about the Jains, well, the Jains have got their own idea of the Dev, what the Devas mean for them, their own conception of the divine. Like, we don't need to concern ourselves. Like, really, it's like, why split hairs? Like, why be so totalitarianism?
Yeah.
Like, why do you want to? What is this? Is ik onkar about the total that everybody should be Khalsa? That's a Raj Karega Khalsa, or should be ik onkar be inclusive that everybody is a part of oneness and everybody is already good where they are? I prefer the second one,
Oh,
but
I think
I don't think the first one has truth.
right. So we can be acceptant of that, and maybe people will have in their minds that you mentioned that will trigger a lot of people is that you mentioned um, like Brahma, Shiva, and like people being even lineages of that. How can people like make peace with that? What does that even mean to like trace your lineage to those beings? What does that mean? You know,
I don't know. I don't know what you're trying to say.
like if you're linked to one being like Shiva or you're linked to Brahma, what does that mean for you? Because that doesn't, to a Western mind, we like how can you be linked to a devti basically? How can you be linked to a devti?
I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
it's the same thing applies. I use the one word carefully, divinity.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, what is the merit in splitting this down?
Okay.
That's what the Guru's done there. Let's go back. I salute the sword. I salute the effulgence of the sword, the Lord of Time. And then the lineage goes through all these different devas. And the Guru's putting it together at the beginning. And then there's you there splitting it all back down. When the Guru's trying to put it all together, there's you being really clever and splitting it all back. That's not intelligent. It doesn't mean anything. What means something is Mantu Jot Swarup hai, apna mool pashan, Jag Jot Japanis basa, Atam Ras Jo Jane, Soi Khalis Dev, Tohi Mohi, Mohi Tohi, Antar Kaisa, Jaltarang Jaisa. Don't you think that's more important? Or are you gonna just postulate and be very metaphysical and I'm so clever, this is all really good. You're wasting your time.
It's,
You see what I mean? This,
yeah,
this is the problem of when you open this Khajana of Sri Dasam Guru Granth Sahib up with no Gyan
right,
and no Samprada and no Gurmat.
right.
I'm not blaming you. I'm not blaming you. I'm not having a dig at you. I think your questions are really good, but you understand how I'm destroying your questions because I'm showing you the questions themselves are flawed in their own logic.
That's good because then it shows how I should actually start to interact with, you know,
Yeah,
Varna.
exactly. Exactly. And that's why these truck drivers who start interpreting Dasam Granth and start mimicking and making up all these kind of insults about Dasam Granth is because they have no understanding themselves of method.
Okay,
Until you don't have classical understanding and Advait, a non-duality, you haven't got any chance of understanding any of this. And you have to go back to Ik Onkar, Siddhi Guru Granth Sahib. You must look through Gurbani carefully and take that framework of Gurmat as best as you, because only the Guru can understand Gurmat as the best as you can understand it to Sri Dasam Granth Sahib. Because then you know what you're doing there. Like, just if I go by your answer, you're then categorizing different Sikhs. But the whole Guru's whole thing was we're all disunified. We need to come together under the umbrella of Khalsa, the solar lineage of the Sodhis, of the Kshatriya Varna. Not that you're one type of that, or you're one type of that, or you're one type. The Guru didn't believe that. That's the whole purpose of the Bachittar Natak, is that non-dualistic nature of the Khalsa and the non-caste based of the Khalsa. The Bachittar Natak is destroying the notion of Varna because it's bringing all the solar races into one solar warrior Varna, which is antithetical to Brahmanism. Now, do you understand why Dasam Granth is so hated? It wasn't just Christians, also the Brahmins. Because Dasam Granth is a heavy critique of Brahmanic practices. And at the same time, it also praises Brahmins. But it's looking at the Brahmanic understanding through the Kshatriya worldview or the Kshatriya ideals. I'd call it Kshatriya ideals, like the ideals of a warrior, which is fraternity, togetherness, unity, society, egalitarian,
right.
agrarian, farming, the land, protecting the land, honoring the women, honoring the old, the young, protection.
So like,
The Brahmanism splitting someone else into a Brahman Khalsa, Shiva Khalsa, Vishnu Khalsa, then you're already going away from that, aren't you?
yeah,
Then you
because
put your foot in shit again.
it's so subtle. Like when we
It is
even see
very,
the when we
it's
see the
very.
gurus,
You know what we're talking about here, Jyoti? Forgive me, but 99% of the Sangha won't understand our conversation. They would have tuned out 5 minutes ago from the first 5 minutes because actually this subject is very deep, is very difficult, and it requires a lot of nuanced understanding. It's not for your pub drinking up on having a lager, talking. Yeah, I heard about Dasam Granth. Yeah, Gyani come from India, very educated, and he said, there's like sex stories, and I don't think Guruji could have written that.
because when we talk about the Sikh gurus, it's like people forget about the previous like incarnation, so it's already locked in that kind of religious framework where we don't have that lineage based feeling or connection. So I think that also helps people, break out of that belief as well, lock. So I know you wanted to,
There's another point here, Jyoti,
yeah,
yeah, which is this. If you separate someone from their mythos, their mythology,
yeah,
where they come from, you've cut off their roots. So if you take out Dasam Granth Sahib away from the Sikh canon, from the Sikh scriptural tradition, you cut off all Sikh from that mythological worldview.
Cosmic origin.
And I can tell you what that primarily does. It cuts them off from the earth. It cuts them off from the spirituality of the land. And in terms of an Indic worldview, from the spirituality of India, that is a grave, grave mistake. You won't have Sikhi left at the end of that. It will slowly amalgamate, and it will eventually become something akin to Protestantism, or it won't even get to Catholicism. Catholicism is still too refined for that. You will end up in some, horrible form of Lutheranism or Protestantism, or even Islam. So like Wahhabism, yeah. That's the danger. That's the danger. And if people can't understand what I'm saying, go and do your homework. Go and read about theology. Go and read about different schools. Read about the Reform movement. Then you'll understand why Guruji went to this. Why would Maharaj write this whole genealogy? And people think Maharaj is a big must have been an egotist. He's got to talk about his Guru Gaddi, his placement in it, his battles. No, that's a part of it. He's put all that stuff before for everyone else. If they're smart enough to use it. If they're smart enough to understand it. If they're smart enough to pick up the clues of why the Guru talks about which king, which person, which surname. You've read this. It's very cryptic. There's so many names, and the Guru goes pages and pages, because that's to do with the people of the land of India. And that's the baby that's sadly been thrown out with the bathwater.
ਬੜਨ ਤੇ ਅਤ ਡਰ ਮਾਨੀਅਤ ਤਿਨ ਤੇ ਹੋਤ ਬਹੁਤ ਨ੍ਰਿਪ ਆਏ ਦਛ ਪ੍ਰਜਾਪਤ ਜਿਨ ਉਪਜਾਏ 10 ਸਹੰਸਰ ਤੇਹ ਗ੍ਰਹਿ ਭਈ ਕਨਿਆ ਜਿਹ ਸਮਾਨ ਕਹਿ ਲੱਗਾ ਨ ਅੰਨਿਆ ਕਾਲ ਕਿਰਿਆ ਐਸੀ ਤਹ ਭਈ ਤੇ ਸਭ ਵਿਆਹ ਨਰੇਸਨ ਦਈ ਦੋਹਰਾ ਬਿਨਤਾ ਕਦਰੂ ਦਿੱਤ ਅਦਿੱਤ ਏ ਰਿਖ ਬਰੀ ਬਨਾਏ ਨਾਗ ਨਾਗਰਿਪ ਦੇਵ ਸਭ ਦਈਤ ਲਏ ਉਪਜਾਏ ਚਉਪਈ ਤਾਤੇ ਸੂਰਜ ਰੂਪ ਕੋ ਧਰਾ ਜਾਤੇ ਬੰਸ ਪ੍ਰਚੁਰ ਰਾਵ ਕਰਾ ਜੋ ਤਿਨ ਕੇ ਕਹਿ ਨਾਮ ਸੁਨਾਊ ਕਥਾ ਬੜਨ ਤੇ ਅਦਕ ਡਰਾਊ ਤਿਨ ਕੇ ਬੰਸ ਬਿਖਾ ਰਗ ਭਇਓ ਰਗ ਬੰਸਹਿ ਜਿਹ ਜਗਹਿ ਚਲਇਓ ਤਾਤੇ ਪੁੱਤਰ ਹੋਤ ਭਇਓ ਅਜਬਰ ਮਹਾਰਥੀ ਅਰ ਮਹਾ ਧਨੁਰ ਧਾਰ ਜਬ ਤਿਨ ਭੇਸ ਜੋ ਕੋ ਲਇਓ ਰਾਜ ਪਾਟ ਦਸਰਤ ਕੋ ਦਇਓ ਹੋਤ ਭਇਓ ਵਹ ਮਹਾ ਧਨੁਰ ਧਾਰ ਤੀਨ ਤ੍ਰਿਆਨ ਬਰਾ ਜਿਹ ਰੁਚ ਕਰ ਪ੍ਰਥਮ ਜਯੋ ਤਿਹ ਰਾਮ ਕੁਮਾਰਾ ਭਰਤ ਲਛਮਨ ਸਤਰ ਬਿਦਾਰਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਕਾਲ ਤਿਨ ਰਾਜ ਕਮਾਇਓ ਕਾਲ ਪਾਏ ਸੁਰਪੁਰਹਿ ਸਧਾਇਓ ਸੀਆ ਸੁਤ ਬਹੁਰ ਭਏ ਦੋਇ ਰਾਜਾ ਰਾਜ ਪਾਟ ਉਨਹੀ ਕੋ ਸਾਜਾ ਮਦਰ ਦੇਸ ਈਸਵਰ ਜਾ ਬਰੀ ਜਬ ਭਾਂਤ ਭਾਂਤ ਕੇ ਜਗ ਕੀਏ ਤਬ ਤਹੀ ਤਿਨੈ ਬਾਂਦੇ ਦੋਇ ਪੁਰਵਾ ਏਕ ਕਸੂਰ ਦੁਤੀ ਲੋਹਰਵਾ ਅਦਕਪੁਰੀ ਤੇ ਦਊ ਬਿਰਾਜੀ ਨਿਰਖ ਲੰਕ ਅਮਰਾਵਤ ਲਾਜੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਕਾਲ ਤਿਨ ਰਾਜ ਕਮਾਇਓ ਜਾਲ ਕਾਲ ਤੇ ਅੰਤ ਫਸਾਇਓ ਤਿਨ ਤੇ ਪੁੱਤਰ ਪੌਤਰ ਜੇ ਵਏ ਰਾਜ ਕਰਤ ਇਹ ਜਗ ਕੋ ਭਏ ਕਹਾ ਲਗੇ ਤੇ ਬਰਨ ਸੁਨਾਊ ਤਿਨ ਕੇ ਨਾਮ ਨ ਸੰਖਿਆ ਪਾਊ ਹੋਤ ਚਹੂੰ ਜੁਗ ਮੈਂ ਜੇ ਆਏ ਤਿਨ ਕੇ ਨਾਮ ਨ ਜਾਤ ਗਨਾਏ ਜੋ ਅਬ ਤੋ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਬਲ ਪਾਊ ਨਾਮ ਜਥਾ ਮਤ ਭਾਗ ਸੁਨਾਊ ਕਾਲ ਕੇਤ ਅਰ ਕਾਲ ਰਾਏ ਭਨ ਜਿਨ ਤੇ ਭਏ ਪੁੱਤਰ ਘਰ ਅਨਗਨ ਕਾਲ ਕੇਤ ਭਇਓ ਬਲੀ ਅਪਾਰਾ ਕਾਲ ਰਾਏ ਜਿਨ ਨਗਰ ਨਿਕਾਰਾ ਭਾਜ ਸਨੌੜ ਦੇਸ ਤੇ ਗਏ ਤਹੀ ਭੂਪਜਾ ਵਿਆਹਤ ਭਏ ਤਿਹ ਤੇ ਪੁੱਤਰ ਭਇਓ ਜੋ ਧਾਮਾ ਸੋਢੀ ਰਾਏ ਧਰਾ ਤਿਹ ਨਾਮਾ ਬੰਸ ਸਨੌੜ ਤਾ ਦਿਨ ਤੇ ਥੀਆ ਪਰਮ ਪਵਿੱਤਰ ਪੁਰਖ ਜੂ ਕੀਆ ਤਾਤੇ ਪੁੱਤਰ ਪੌਤਰ ਹੋਏ ਆਏ ਤੇ ਸੋਢੀ ਸਭ ਜਗਤ ਕਹਾਏ ਜਗ ਮੈਂ ਅਦਕ ਸੋ ਭਏ ਪ੍ਰਸਿੱਧਾ ਦੇਨ ਦੇਨ ਤਿਨ ਕੇ ਧਨ ਕੀ ਬ੍ਰਿਧਾ ਰਾਜ ਕਰਤ ਭਏ ਵਿਵਿਧ ਪ੍ਰਕਾਰਾ ਦੇਸ ਦੇਸ ਕੇ ਜੀਤ ਨ੍ਰਿਪਾਰਾ ਜਹਾਂ ਤਹਾਂ ਤੇ ਧਰਮ ਚਲਾਇਓ ਹਰੇ ਸਕਲ ਕਲੂਖ ਨਿਜ ਕੁਲ ਕੇ ਹਰੇ
And people need to go and do this homework, and that's what I'm trying to keep it on that focus, because that's the important thing for people to do. To where, whether people believe this actually took place, didn't take place, this is irrelevant. Try to understand what the Guru's trying to tell you. He's trying to tell you your divine human origin.
Okay.
And I'd go further. I'd say pretty much most people would have divine human origin anywhere in the world.
Yeah. I know you wanted to have this. Why go to the extent of writing all of the names and everything? But yeah, maybe it is just to have this connection, heart connection, or connection to the people there, or for them to research the kings or people of that land. I don't know. Is there anything you'd like to say on that, or you're good?
I'd just say to anyone watching, I'd say to the kind of on a universal level, know your divine origins.
Cool.
On a level of Indians who may watch this, know your divine origins according to your ancestry, where you come from. Honor wherever you are with dharma, and if we're Khalsa, we must fight evil. And that's also on a global level. We just got down to Punjabi nationalism as Khalistan, as some Khalsa dream. Unless you don't destroy evil, there's no Khalistan, there's no Khalsa Raj. We need to think about what is the evil around us, how do we destroy it, how do we get on with that task which Guruji set. That was the bar that the Guru set us.
Cool. Thank you. I think there was just one, there's some fun questions from the comments from previously. I don't know if you want to answer them, but it's comments like flat earth and cloning of humans. So if you want to break our worldview, if you have any thoughts on that.
I've heard flat earth theories. There's one Nahang Singh who's very educated, and he always tells me the earth is flat. And I didn't need to research this. My logic and my understanding and analysis shows me the world is not flat. This is from what's within Gurbani, it's from physics experiments, it's from the way the horizon is. This is from myself. I've flown extensively. No. And then I'd say this as well. Is the Earth a perfect round globe? That's probably not true either. We're too small to see the Earth in its totality. That's how big the Earth is. You'd need to go very, very, very far away from the Earth to be able to see. You understand? From a perspective, yeah? To be able to see it properly. I don't know if that's possible yet. But I guess it's not a completely round ball. Is it flat in any sense? We know it can't be flat. It says going more towards something round that spins around, and it's so vast, it's so huge. We can't really fathom the scale of how big the planet Earth is, let alone this solar system or universe. We're microscopic. Like I say to people, you can't even see your own butt cheek. How are you going to see the perspective of the universe? You can't see it. You're sitting on it. You can't see it. You're going to see the rest, are you? The eyes are small. They can see huge things. It says Rumi, but you can't see everything. And so we have to understand our limitation. We have to understand our limitation of science. And who cares whether it's round or flat? What's he going to give you?
Yeah.
You're just entertaining your mind with things which are not going to help you. So the second thing is cloning human beings. Oh, that's already been done, but mate, they probably did that 50 years ago, even longer. I know in ancient scripture it talks about cloning of humans, artificial insemination, pots used as wombs, magics, and stuff like that. This was done a long, long time ago. This is not recent. I'd say thousands of years ago. And are they probably going to clone people? Yes, for organs, for the DNA, so they can live longer, all that type of stuff. That's just here, and if it's not here, it's around the corner.
Yeah, that just opens our worldview again. But I'm trying to not use my intellectual mind, but thank you for again sharing your time with us to help us connect to Gurbani. I'll put the link in the description below to your YouTube page that you go through the Singh Sabha reforms and everything, so people can check that out. But I'm just really, really grateful for the time you sat down with our previous dialogues to help us connect. Is there anything you want to say to Sangat, or anything you just want to let us know?
I just want to say to the Sangat, if anybody wants to learn, message me. We can sort out some classes. I'm teaching quite a few people online now, and I can add you to one of my classes that I do. Is donation based on your income. We can discuss it. And so we have to understand it through that symbolism, and we have to try to understand what's the guru's purpose. And I can't put, like, what a lot of egotistical people do is they put what the guru's purpose is. I've never done that. I've looked for the guru's purpose in the Gurbani itself. And then I've looked at that and extrapolated, okay, if the guru's purpose about Dharam, why is he telling us about genealogy? Well, I must apply Dharam and fight against evil there. Does that make sense? That gives you the right information. But if you're just putting your own spin on it, you'll never get to the truth and the depth of this discussion. Like for you, you're probably expecting one thing, and now your mind's like, what the hell? Like, do you understand what I mean, Jyothi? Yeah?
Yeah.
You're thinking, shit, like this
think we
means
should.
so much. And
Yeah.
I'm just sharing that same eureka, that realization I got when I sat there and I went through forensically. It took me a long time to get to that. People like Basics of Sikhi, Jagrad Singh and others, he would understand this in minutes. It took me months, years. But his mind was so open, and he could really understand these deep concepts. And other people, I haven't been that gifted. I had to really spend a lot of time on it. But what I do know is I can save people time that they don't go around in circles.
Thank you. Like you said, like I felt drawn to it, like Prem Samarag, but I just couldn't, I got run right in circles basically, and probably still will, but I think Dharam first and foremost.
That's it. You have to look at the Bani in the context of Dharam Yud, so Biras, warrior spirit, and then these genealogies of warrior lineage genealogies. So the Guru's there telling us all of Punjab really, and most of India. Look at where you've come from.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing of a warrior is honor. Bring your honor back. And so that's what we need. And if I said anything wrong, Jyoti, please forgive me. And I'm going to go now. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa.
Thank you. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.